When running an organisation, it is important to have a board of directors who work well together. Making the right decisions and knowing what to do is called good corporate governance. This ensures that the company and everyone involved is making honest choices in the best interests of the stakeholders. So what makes a board of directors succeed? Let's look at the top 10 reasons why they don't. The first reason boards fail is not having the right people. Some directors might not have the relevant skills or experience, or they might not understand the importance of their role and responsibilities as a director. A board of directors is only as good as the people who sit on them. The second reason is not keeping directors up to date with recent developments. Directors need to know their roles and responsibilities. This includes understanding financial reports. Directors should never be kept in the dark. Directors should always be informed, and new directors must be trained and equipped with the right information to help them fulfil their duties. The third reason is not knowing the rules of the organisation. The company constitution is like a rule book. It tells the directors, management and the staff what the organisation can and can't do and how it should operate. All directors should be encouraged to learn the rules and know how to change the ones that don't provide good results for the organisation. 4. Another reason is not making decisions in the best interests of the organisation. The chairperson and the directors need to promote responsible decision making. Effective decision making will keep the company strong and will allow it to grow and prosper. Reason number 5 is not recognising potential problems and risks that might threaten the organisation. By identifying any problems, directors can ensure the organisation is well prepared to weather any storm. Whether it's finances, management, staff or physical environment, directors must know how to deal with problems as they arise. A good way to do this is to keep a checklist of potential problems, risks, and ways of dealing with them if they arise. Reason number 6 is not using the organisation's assets responsibly. Assets and funds belong to the organisation, not one individual or the board of directors. Directors should ensure assets and funds are used effectively to keep the organisation strong. This will leave a lasting impression on banks, government and suppliers. If assets and funds are used in the wrong way, the organisation will become weak and may not survive. The 7th reason boards fail is neglecting to pay taxes. Tax matters should be handled correctly. Tax and superannuation must be paid on time. Not reporting correctly can lead to financial penalties, cash flow problems and angry taxmen. Having people who understand taxes will help to address these issues. Reason number 8 is not knowing the organisation's financial position. Financial reports indicate if funds are being managed properly. If directors are worried about the organisation's financial position, they should talk to the company auditor. Reason number 9 is trying to do everything at once. Directors need to have a clear direction on where the organisation is heading. Board governance takes time and priorities must be set years in advance. All boards should have a good idea of the organisation's mission and what success looks like. Directors and management should work in partnership to establish key goals and priorities. 10. The final reason boards fail is a lack of teamwork. Directors and management must work together. If conflict and tension arises, it can interfere with the board's ability to make decisions. Constructive conflict can improve the decisions made because it's valuable to consider many points of view. Sticking to a well-thought-out strategic plan will give the board a direction and will minimise conflict. Good governance is made up of many different elements: teamwork, communication, transparency, financial audits, A code of ethics and effective reporting contributes towards an effective and productive board. And a productive board means a successful and profitable organisation.
The SEC's mission is to protect investors and to ensure the integrity of the markets. The structure of our markets is constantly changing, and there's always all kinds of new challenges.
There are some out there who participate in the marketplace who are dishonest. Our job is to deal with those individuals and hold them accountable.
The overall goal of what we do is to protect the little guy and creating rules that create fairness for everybody.
You've got to make sure that that small group of people that are going to try to steal from the rest are stopped in their tracks.
At the SEC, our clients are people like my mom and dad, like you and me, you know, the lady down the street, the elderly man who goes to church with us, average American investors who need our protection.
To protect all investors, we need to use every resource available to us: intelligence, innovation, ideas, and integrity.
Everybody at the SEC represents the Commission.
We're definitely trying to get talented, motivated people to come work at the SEC.
We're looking for go-getters.
Somebody who is willing to learn.
We want somebody who is very inquisitive.
Someone that can work with everyone. It's an incredible network of people.
The SEC relies extensively on its regional offices to carry out its mission.
We have offices on the West Coast, we have Miami, we have Boston, Chicago, Salt Lake, Denver, Philadelphia. We're everywhere. Texas, I don't want to forget Texas.
It's not just national, it's also international. I've sent my staff, or I've gone myself, all over the world in tracking down fraud.
The theory is that we're going to go into work and work very hard, and then we're going to go home.
One of the benefits to working at the SEC, an intangible benefit, is the flexible work schedule.
You have more control over your hours, you have more input in the final product.
It's one of the things I love at the SEC is we can do very rewarding work, and we can have a life.
The SEC is one of the leanest and most elite federal agencies. You'll find that you're energized by your colleagues because this is an incredibly vital place to be.
There's no other better job in government than with the SEC.
I love the responsibility and the variety of projects, initiatives, examinations.
My first transaction was a $20 million deal. And so I thought that was really impressive to me to have something of that magnitude right out the box.
The SEC's mission above all is to maintain fair markets for all investors. In its own way, it has a special place in Washington. It has a special culture.
I think the ultimate satisfaction working at the SEC is just a sense of public service.
Every day it's a different company, it's a different issue, and that's exciting.
I'd like to think that the very projects I'm on right now and will continue to be on have a lasting impact.
The contribution we're making is extremely valuable because, we do recognize that lives and futures are impacted by our decisions and how we approach our mission.
The feeling is that you're part of something bigger than you could have ever imagined.
Business ethics is the system of laws and guidelines by which business professionals and corporations operate in a fair, legal, and moral fashion. It's a broad topic covering everything from a corporation's responsibilities to the public, corporate social responsibility, to specific laws prohibiting illegal practices in the workplace. When ethical guidelines are followed, trust develops between workers and management, as well as between the public and the corporation. Thus, business ethics lead to a more productive workplace. Most corporations have a policy limiting the size of gifts given to customers to a small monetary amount. For example, you can give a customer a dozen golf balls, but not a new set of golf clubs. This is to prevent kickbacks or bribes. If the customer is going to do business with you, it's because your product or service is needed, not because you gave them incentives outside the core business of the company. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act was created in 1977 in response to a rash of U.S. companies bribing foreign government officials to award contracts to their businesses. The act forbids corporations and business executives from paying money or other valuables to foreign governments and officials in order to secure business.
WorldCom Incorporated executives Scott D. Sullivan and David F. Myers were charged with 7 counts of securities fraud.
WorldCom, a telecom giant destroyed by a massive accounting fraud. At the heart of the fraud, Controller David Myers, a former Ernst & Young senior manager.
Any one of us could be put in those situations.
He's a former employee. It could be me.
I was shocked.
Mr. Myers was a reluctant participant in the events that have led us here today.
But if you're not careful, things could turn out the wrong way.
He looked like a regular guy.
If it could happen to him, it could happen to you.
What led Myers to participate in the fraud, and what can we learn about doing the right thing from his example? Find out in this special ethics and compliance presentation.
Hello, I'm Jeff Hoops, America's Ethics and Compliance Officer. One of the largest accounting frauds in U.S. history occurred at a company called WorldCom. Between 1999 and 2002, WorldCom overstated its pre-tax income by more than $5 billion. The overstatement was caused by aggressively and ultimately fraudulently reducing reserves and fraudulently capitalizing operating expenses. This Wall Street high flyer ultimately declared bankruptcy. Its stock became worthless. 17,000 people lost their jobs and their pensions. Investors lost billions. The principal players in this fraud all went to jail, including the CEO, Bernie Ebbers, the CFO, Scott Sullivan, and the controller, David Myers. By way of background, Myers worked for Ernst & Young for about 11 years before he left as a senior manager to work for a private company and eventually for WorldCom. For a variety of reasons, WorldCom found it could not meet its financial projections and Wall Street's expectations in the fourth quarter of 1999. Here's an excerpt from my interview in which Myers describes a conversation he had with CFO Scott Sullivan about the financial results.
In the third or fourth quarter of 1999, I personally brought financial statements into Scott and showed him a margin that was, in Scott's words, completely unacceptable. And his exact words were that we had completely, well, these aren't his exact words, that we had screwed up, that we had made a mistake, and to take the financial statements, he wasn't even going to keep them, they were wrong. So, you know, I knew they weren't, but I didn't, you know, at that point in time, didn't know enough facts about it to be able to tell him that he was wrong, so I took the financial statements back. We reworked the entire quarter and came back to the same, basically the same number. So when I took those back to Scott, again, his response was, this is so far off where we had told the public market we're going to be, we can't do this. There must be a mistake. There has to be a mistake. Scott's probably the brightest person I've ever met in my life. from a financial perspective or almost any perspective. And when someone that you respect from an intelligence perspective, I mean, there's obviously a lot of loyalty and everything else. When he says that he knows for a fact that the information that you're providing is wrong, that you've made a mistake, you assume, or I assumed that we had made a mistake. And so we went back and reworked the numbers again, coming back to, for all intents and purposes, the same number. All of this time frame, we're a public company. Public company is about to release its quarterly earnings, and so the time frame to release your earnings is set. The time that we're at this point playing, trying to figure out what's wrong, is we're creeping closer and closer to the time we have to release our earnings. So Scott actually tells me, I know the numbers are wrong, I know what they should be, we need to book an entry to get where I know we should be, and then we'll figure out what the error is at the end of the quarter, and the next quarter is going to be just the same error, but the opposite direction. The two will wipe out each other, and everything will be fine. But you need to produce an entry this quarter to fix the problem that I know is there, and that was the real pressure that the accounting department was put under, was producing an entry that was based on the CFO's thought process of what he thought the number should be, as opposed to what we knew the underlying answer was. Third quarter, it had happened twice. The first one, I honestly believe that we had made a mistake. I didn't know how, but Scott convinced me that there was just an error. The second was, well, we now think we know what the error is, and we're going to try to fix it. So we're going to make the adjustment twice. Not comfortable doing it, but again, we're not doing anything that is considered criminal or fraudulent. It's just not good accounting, and we could probably be called to task, and we should have disclosed, been more open in our disclosure. The third quarter, when there really was, in my opinion, nothing in the future that was going to change what the situation was, and we were still fixing it. We're preparing at that point in time. In my opinion, it had sort of moved past being aggressive accounting into this is wrong. And then the entire pressures that come about you is at what point in this linear equation was I really wrong? So this is the third time I'm going to do this. Is it the first time that it's wrong, or this is the first time that I did it 2 quarters ago? Was that wrong? And so all of a sudden you've stepped off onto a slope that you're halfway down the mountain and you didn't even know that you were on the mountain. So then it was sort of a survival. What do? Well, you got to sort of keep doing what you're doing, or you got to raise the flag that there's something completely amiss, and then what are the consequences of that? I mean, it was a moral and ethical dilemma that you were facing, and nothing had prepared you to deal with the kind of pressures that you were currently under.